and welcome to this week's edition of Blacklisted Radio. It's the 15th day of February 2015. My name is Doug Owen. I am the senior editor of blacklistednews.com, and you can, of course, join me live at blacklistedradio.com. We have an interactive chat room there that I will be going to directly. Actually, if you go to doomcast.com, we're in that chat room. And the stream should be going there, so maybe you should go to doomcast.com/live, or just click on the chat link there, and boom, you'll be in the chat room. You can tweet at me. BLN Radio is the handle, and of course, Blacklisted News is the handle for all of the news feeds, and you can find the show notes. I've actually produced those today, and they're going to be pretty informative. Hopefully, we get to most of the news here, and the stuff that we don't, you'll have a reference for all the things I intended to talk about. So, continuing the conversation from the previous 2-hour discussion that I've been having with Charlie McGrath, coming into this show with a pretty interesting perspective on surveillance, totalitarian mission creep accomplished. In my own day-to-day life, I have to deal with surveillance and GPS tracking now of my vehicle while I'm at work. So this is just one of the many new realities in this brave new world that many of you out there, including myself, have to contend with, and you have to draw your line in the sand. So it's kind of, I think, a really interesting change that people are seeing, and that is that we are widely accepting surveillance as normal, and it takes a lot to shock people these days when it comes to things that are invasive technologies that are monitoring our day-to-day activities. So we're going to start off with technology going rogue. I think that's the meme of the week that we'll focus on anyway, and that is everything you own. You think you own it, but it might actually own you. And if you haven't heard about it, Samsung has a TV that is eavesdropping on you. Some of their smart TVs are not only listening to you potentially, if they want to, your private conversations, not just listening to them, but storing them, recording them, and using them for all sorts of purposes, private interests, who knows, selling you different products. They hear a dog barking in the background, maybe some dog food. But worse than that, most people, sadly enough, are not going to be that upset about your TV listening to you. I actually, sadly, have a Samsung Smart TV that I bought 2 years ago. I hate to admit this, but when looking at this TV, I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'm sure it's going to monitor me just like any other internet device. We live in an internet of things, and sure, if you're watching a video and you're connecting to a server on YouTube, Google knows it, and they know where you're at, and they have a pretty good idea of the kind of person you are by what you like on Facebook and an overall digital footprint that we all leave. So that's kind of a new reality. I don't like it, but to think that you're not being tracked is just to be naive. And if you're listening to the show, you're not naive, you're not stupid, and you're definitely not hoodwinked by fake promises and assurances by the state. So that's where we're at. But Samsung's doing something even more sinister. They are adding ads into your movies, which this is going to get people upset. Not the fact that they're monitoring you or could be monitoring you. It's the fact that if you are watching a movie that you've paid for, according to GigaOM, they actually will broadcast commercials during your movie. And who knows what kind of native advertising and other things that you might find there while watching TV. Now, you out there saying, that doesn't apply to me, Doug. I haven't had a TV. I killed my TV back in 1963. I don't participate in this, and I have the choice to not be tracked by the state. And you're right. You don't have to jump into the Internet of Things. You don't have to buy a watch that records your GPS location. You don't have to carry a cell phone with you. You don't have to embed a microchip in your head yet. Or any of the other things that have been proposed by crazy people. But we're getting there. It's not so offensive or such a odd idea. So, the Xbox Kinect for a few years has had this feature where You tell it to come on, and it turns on. Pretty simple. It's always listening. The Xbox is always listening, and you can bet your bottom dollar that DARPA knows how to turn on your Xbox and listen. And we know this because the FBI has been doing all sorts of surveillance into alleged pedophile rings somehow operating on the PS3. And I don't know if I believe any of that, but they're there. They are in World of Warcraft and your virtual AI worlds looking for terrorists, looking for people saying terroristic things. And charges have been brought against those that have made threats and have said things or have tried to radicalize others in the virtual realm. I know most of you are like, well, I have nothing of that. I don't do that. Doesn't matter to me. Well, if you have a car, now you can get on that transit bus and the Viper team will fill you up there at the TSA location, and they're expanding into everything. They're going to be working directly with the IRS to make sure all of you tax evaders, all of you people out there that don't want to pay taxes to the government for all the bombs and wars and stuff that we owe money for, that we sell to others, and then we, the cycle, the vicious cycle of violence and the monopoly of violence by the state. I could rail on that all day long. But anyway, you have a vehicle, you have a computer. In 2015, if you buy a vehicle, and this is just a matter of time. So you can have your 1955 Chevy, and you're exempt for the moment, but good luck taking that across country. So you start getting more and more limited. So we have a world where your Impala, your Chevy Impala, now DARPA can hack it. Michael Hastings found that out, wink, wink, just a few years ago, and when covering the Patriot scandal, and that's another story for another show. But the 60 Minutes crew showed us how the Chevy was targeted, and of course we know that they are government motors. They were able to display their ability to hack and stop and to wreck vehicles. And this is one of the reasons that now, oddly enough, the fix to this, the problem reaction and thus solution pre-subscribed, is that we have to let the government have control of everything. And we're going to get there because the internet kill switch, your cell phone kill switch, in your best interest is now mandated. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know their TVs might be listening to them. Some people think that their cars, once they pay for them, are under their control. And as we move into all of the renewables and other Internet of Things connected variables in your life, you're going to find that more and more of those things, even though you're paying for them, even though you think you own them, you do not. So DARPA hacked the GM OnStar. They were able to do this. This came out on the 9th with 60 Minutes. But I thought this was pretty interesting that the DMCA prohibits, that's the Digital Rights Management Group, prohibits people from hacking their own car's computer. So you would think that you owned a car and you decided, well, I paid my bill. Now I don't want somebody else, a computer or some other company, to be able to shut my car down. I would have the right to turn that off. Now, I don't know anybody that's bought a car that I know in my personal life, professional life, that is aware that they don't really control their car, that others could control their car. And most people don't even, if they did know, I don't think most people would be that freaked out about it. Case in point, 60 Minutes. And more people are clamoring for government control over their vehicles. So we'll get to that, the internet kill switch. We're going to talk about yoga pants. If you are a big fan, you're going to be upset by this. And we'll talk about how they could be dangerous, a couple proposed New Jersey bills, and much more coming your way right here on Blacklisted Radio. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you for listening to Blacklisted Radio. This podcast is truly independent, commercial-free, and supported exclusively by listeners just like you. Please help us continue producing corporate sponsor-free media with your donation at blacklistedradio.com today.
And welcome back. This is Blacklisted Radio. Hey, that sounds weird. Oh, yeah, that's why I unmuted that other microphone. that's not nearly as dampened as this one. Welcome back. The toll-free number if you'd like to join in the conversation, if your TV is listening to you, if you're concerned about surveillance and where we go here in this new reality, the unfortunate reality that is that perceived security is neither given nor received for the relinquishing of our rights and the, I think, belief that privacy is something that is a virtue. So RBN's number is 800-313-9443. You can also email me, Doug@blacklistednews.com. And so we move on. We were talking about the Samsung technologies, and it's really just a metaphor, I think, for me, for the the future where everything is transparent. And there's things that bother me beyond the fact that you can't control your vehicle anymore, or you won't be able to. That we're going to have our vehicles talking to one another, and what that could do. The hypocrisy or the contradiction of creating security, but putting everything online, and then thus it becomes insecure, and thus we need Obama's new integration center that he brought us via the executive order this week. So, it's a problem, reaction, solution scenario, as I mentioned before, and it's just so frustrating. So, yeah, you think you'd be able to own your vehicle? Not so. And if you want to disable that TV from listening to you, that could be a felony. You could actually be committing a crime. How ironic is that? It's listening to you without your knowledge or your consent, at least not in a very frontal way. You might be subconsciously, or because you didn't read the fine print, you might be legally bound by it or aware of it. You signed that, man. That means you're aware. Yeah, there's that kind of aware, but people just are not cognizant of it. Anyway, if that's not bad enough, you don't control your phone. The government wants the ability to turn it off because there might be a scenario where the government doesn't want you to have a cell phone. And, case in point, look at all of the problems the governments around the world have had with Twitter and with social media and with activists networking with one another, or seemingly networking with one another. They may just be connecting to the government's Stingray, which is a fake cell tower that takes up and gobbles all of your private data and gives that to law enforcement warrantlessly, without any kind of probable cause, oath affirmation, any of the other things that go into the Fourth Amendment. So anyway, the mandatory kill switch is coming. This came out on the 4th, and state laws are now making it mandatory for all phones, mobile phones sold in the United States, to have kill switches, and are slow in coming with the July deadline. So just in 6 months, you buy a phone, the government is going to have the ability, not just the federal government, but state government, possibly police, are going to have the ability to turn your phone off. Signatories, along with the public-private partnership that is required for this, are, of course, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Huawei, HTC, Sprint, AT&T, Mobile, US Cellular, Verizon, Motorola Mobility, and Asurion, which are probably all the same. At least Motorola, I guess, is now owned by Verizon. Nonetheless, they all agreed that they will give the government the ability to turn off your phone whenever they feel it's necessary to protect law enforcement's lives. So I try to imagine the scenario, maybe terrorists using their phones to talk on Skype. Pretty outlandish, probably not really happening. But we found out that there were FARC terrorists in Colombia using U.S. satellites, allegedly using satellite radios, and actually connecting to U.S. satellites that had been virtually abandoned. So funny enough, the communication that they do have is not, it's probably provided by Motorola's walkie-talkies. realistically, or some other medium. But it's either complete incompetence or intentional honeypotting that the government is engaging in. So maybe you don't care about that. Maybe it's not a big deal that the government can turn off your phone at any time, and that they might have maybe not the most genuine of reasons for doing it. Maybe it's not in your best interest, or even in the best interest of law enforcement. They may just decide that you just don't need to talk to anybody, and that could be pretty arbitrary. Who knows who's a terrorist? Today, that definition has been so skewed. Who knows what that will be in the future? I mean, words change. Things and meanings change. We see that with the word gay. Fred Flintstone, the intro to the Flintstones, they'll have a gay old time. Not a big deal. You say gay old time today, you're going to watch 14-year-old boys giggle. So while most people were, freaked out about terrorist shootings in Stockholm and all of the other things that are happening in Ukraine, with the U.S. teasing the Russian bear and that geopolitical strategy that's unfolding in a very grim and sad way, you might not have noticed that Obama signed a new executive order that's 13636, promoting private sector cybersecurity information sharing. So here you go. This is a pretty interesting executive order. I've got it marked up, and the show notes will be available at blacklistedradio.com with the full executive order in there, highlighted. And Section 1 of the policy here says, in order to address cyber threats to public health and safety, national security and economic security of the United States, bankers, private companies, nonprofit organizations, George Soros, executive departments and agencies, and other entities must be able to share information related to cybersecurity risks, incidents, and collaborate to respond in a close to real-time environment, as real as possible. So, what does this mean? This means that every one of these companies that is strategically important to life in the United States of America, on planet Earth today, are going to be able, and they are being courted by the U.S. government to work in tandem as agents of the government. They are being deputized. Some of you might remember the story that came out a few years ago about InfraGuard, the infrastructure guard agency that was basically deputizing people to shoot and kill in the event of emergencies. Don't worry, it's not that far-fetched, and if you have friends that can't get on board with the New World Order, I've got stuff in this document that's way better, like the fact that the FBI planned to assassinate, quote, if necessary, the leader of the Occupy protests. Now, I mean, the FBI plotting to kill people for something like being deemed necessary, which I don't know what that would be. If he was going to kill a police officer, that's pretty self-explanatory. You wouldn't need a whole order that is now being kept secret. So the government plans to kill people from time to time, every once in a while, if they deem it's necessary. Keep that in mind. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the kill switch. We'll talk about yoga pants. For all of you guys out there that are fans, you're going to be upset about this and much more that's coming your way right here on Blacklisted Radio. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening to the live show, appreciate you doing so. Please do let other people know about the show, and you could do that in a variety of ways, including social media, if you dare. If you don't mind the fact that those things, you should actually take them shouldn't take them for granted. You should take advantage, because who knows how long before the government is able to turn those off. And I'm sure they probably already have that power. So this really extends from a 2002 executive order about critical infrastructure, and that is Obama's latest, that has had almost no media attention or scrutiny or analysis, so that's why we're doing it here. And it builds upon the foundation established by the executive order that precedes. It is the 2002 Critical Infrastructure Information Act. And some of you are familiar with this, and basically the government takes over everything during martial law. And if there's a national state emergency, the government, people were livid about the fact that you can't turn off those presidential executive messages from the government on your phone. And I've been in a restaurant where everybody's phone simultaneously goes crazy because of an Amber Alert. And, they want that ability for them to have mass notification to every person across the world to send them the message of whatever it may be. Insert crazy scenario where you would actually need that. And then you can insert the scenario that's more than likely the reality, and that is to control all of you pesky protesters, occupiers, and others that are causing trouble for the state. They would love to be able to go to Ferguson rather than just not even shutting down people, but shutting down media, shutting down all communications in any location they deem necessary. Things like Ferguson and other perceived or real, how likely or plausible, just kind of depends on current events. But people are going to be upset about the trends, the way that they are perceived to be treated by the state, by others. We have more and more people that are sinking into poverty. And when you're poor and you have nothing to live for, well, that's one of the talking points of the latest World Economic Forum, where we got you the report explaining why the government and people in the highest echelons of power and Wall Street banking, international finance, and the like are freaked out because they see things like what's happening in Ferguson, what happened there, and other flashpoints across the nation, and they realize that people, an angry mob's hard to keep down, and there's only a few ways to keep people down these days, and that is just turn off their cars, turn off their social networks, turn off the phone, turn off your camera, and it's a field day. Shut down the media, which was I think the biggest focus of the FBI. They instituted for the Ferguson Police Department, for the state of Missouri, a no-fly list, a no-fly zone above Ferguson, Missouri, and they later admitted, this is not conspiracy, this is real, that they did this to keep the media from reporting accurately what was happening on the ground. So the government's contending with this, and of course, criminals and others that are currently occupying the establishment, if you will, or occupying the executive, and many agencies across the federal government and into state and local governments are all figuring out ways to hold you down. Simple. It's real simple. It's not, hard to understand. So you need partners. Public-private partnerships are key, and that's what this new directive promoting private sector security, cybersecurity information sharing does. It creates ISAOs, which are information sharing and analysis organizations that will be working with these different entities. And it's so wide and broad in scope. It could basically give anybody legal status, or any company legal status, impunity for giving your private information for whatever reason to government, and it allows them to act as a deputy, as a hand of the state in fighting terror. Sounds great. We need Apple to help you fight terror. We need to go after these terrorist iPhones. So anyway, some of the sections I note here. A new section, 201D, is inserted after section 201C to read as follows. The manual shall also prescribe arrangements necessary to permit and enable secure sharing of classified information under a designated critical infrastructure protection program to such authorized individuals and organizations as determined by the Secretary of Homeland Security. So they're going to have their own SIPR-NIPR-net. If you're not familiar, just Google NIPR-net or SIPR-net, and you'll get the idea of what that is. It's kind of like the internet for the government or the spooks. So sector-specific agencies, you're going to have agencies that are working with utilities. And now that the FCC is ready to classify the internet as a utility, All of you out there that continue to clamor for more government control and to just keep those dang old telecoms honest. And I mean, there's only 6 of them, and they own the government. They are the government. You're barking up the wrong tree looking for accountability. And has the government ever really provided any kind of justice? Have any of their wars on anything really worked? I mean, I know most of you out there that are, I don't know. I mean, not to disparage any group and not to put people in boxes, but if you're one of those people that keeps asking government for solutions to go after people, you've got to understand who they work for. And they work for the corporations that put these people in power. That's how they get there. So, anyway, there's a new cyber defense agency. Bet you didn't know that. Most people don't. Totalitarian Creep in full effect. It's basically what they're considering to be the Patriot Act 2. Executive order will promote sharing of confidential information with corporations. Bad enough, you are now forced into giving your information to the healthcare providers that are now going to be, of course, sharing your private medical information with the government, the IRS, and the IRS is the enforcement agency for ensuring that you go get your proper health care. It's just one of the many really nightmarish scenarios. TV listening to you, bad. Government has electronic files that they cannot protect and that are stolen on. I mean, they can't protect the files and they can't keep hackers from your files. So the idea that we want to, continue to do that seems counterintuitive. It's like putting a nuclear reactor online where anybody could shut it down. Or the Chinese, they're coming for you, Doug. They're coming. They're coming for the nuclear reactors. Like, well, shouldn't you just unplug that? It's been running since 1960 prior to, I don't know. I mean, you used to have short haul modems and, 56K at one time was pretty big. You could just unplug the phone line. Now, no, everything's on some IP addressable Internet of Things node or module. So, it makes no sense to me why the solution is actually the problem. But I guess it makes sense when you really think about what the goal is. Some of the other companies you wouldn't think necessarily, Intel, QVC, Walgreens, they're all working on framework and practices to give themselves this exempt status to become an ISAO. They are going to be sharing and they're going to be giving analysis and working and deputized by the state. So we talked about the cell phone service kill switch. Now, you would think that something that would affect each and every person that has a cell phone. 1 in 5 people in the world have smartphones, not cell phones, but smartphones. You would think that, you would be able to explain why we need one or how does it work or, I don't know. You'd think there'd be some kind of transparency. I would anyway. I have reasonable expectations of minimal transparency for things that I know the government has no good reason to need or to want, and any reason that they give is, let's be honest, a lie. So, the internet kill switch, EPIC, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, they're like the EFF. They're one of the foundations out there that actually cares about electronic privacy, that exposes. I mean, here's the reality. The Obamacare website, healthcare.gov, had so many third-party creepy things that were sucking down your packets and third-party applications receiving your information. I mean, if you can't protect a multi-billion-dollar website, you're not going to be able to protect much. And that's where we're at with that. More on the other side. Your calls are welcome as well. It's Blacklisted Radio. All right, welcome back. Final segment of the show. This is Blacklisted Radio. Of course, blacklistedradio.com, the home of this broadcast, podcast, in all of its various formats. You can find us there. You can find exclusive content, connections to social networks, our YouTube channel, our Roku channel. We've got channels on Stitcher, iTunes Radio. Everywhere that you find podcasts, you can find Blacklisted Radio by searching my name or Blacklisted Radio. Pretty simple. All right, so before we get to yoga pants, and we should talk about yoga pants because they're threatening. to people, and I'm a huge fan. Before we go to the caller, we're going to go straight to the caller. I've got to mention this because I plugged it twice. Yoga pants. Some people find them offensive. If you're not familiar with what yoga pants are, they are these tight-fitting pants that women wear that basically show every crease, nook, and cranny of. It's like spandex, but not as shiny. And you can Google it, I'm sure. So anyway, there is a certain senator. This guy's in Montana. Hold on, let me see. Montana, who's trying to change the state's indecency exposure law to include yoga pants. It is House Bill 365, and the House Judiciary Committee has put this forward. They're also going after those cyclist shorts. So if you're a Lance Armstrong fan, like many people here, he's kind of a scumbag, but biking fan, any of those kind of things, you may be the target, which is just so funny to me because, I mean, I guess there's just things are that good in Montana that you have nothing else to worry about. So there you go. Watch out, all of you yoga pants wearers. You're warping children's minds. It's not the endless war and all the other things that are, I don't know, real threats and really, morally decaying society. It's none of that. It's your yoga pants that are the problem. Anyway, with that, let's go to the phone lines and talk with our caller there. I've got...
Hey, just lost him.
This guy's like, I'm not talking about yoga pants. I'm not going to do it. Son of a bitch, not taking my call. Sorry. So, yeah, if you'd like to call back in, we'll try to work it in. Sorry. It's been a while, and we're not working with a call board. We're actually, Mike here, the producer, who's rocking it at the studio, sends it to me via Skype, and sometimes I've learned to ignore the Skype boxes because people email me stuff or text me, and it's just distracting. So I used to get caught up in it. I need to make this more visible. There we go. So I talked about Epic, who's the one group out there trying to find out about Standard Operating Procedure 303. So if you don't know what SOP 303 is, it codifies a shutdown and restoration process for use by commercial and private wireless networks during a national crisis. What that is, I don't know. I guess it just depends on who's president and who declares a national crisis these days. So many people probably have that ability and that power to do so. The fact that they don't want to be clear about what kind of crisis, they don't want to elaborate on the specifics, and they want to keep it secret. It's telling, because if it's something that can really keep you safe, if it's something that can really help you and help society, they are always so apt to tell you. I mean, they'll throw it in your face, and they have a picture of something that scares you, and they think that they're going to be able to help keep fear alive, as we heard the former FBI budget director say. If you haven't heard that, this is well worth listening to. I've got 20 seconds of it, one of my evergreens, but it shows you the mentality and why we have this current trend in government. And it's because if you want money, if you want power, if you want to continue to have a job, you got to have a bad guy. And God knows we're creating a lot of them, but I mean, this is just very telling.
If you're submitting budget proposals for a law enforcement agency, for an intelligence agency, you're not going to submit the proposal that we won the war on terror and everything's great, because the first thing's going to happen is your budget's going to be cut in half. It's my opposite of Jesse Jackson's Keep Hope Alive. This is keep fear alive. Keep it alive.
Keep fear alive. I love it. We should have some Blacklisted Radio Keep Fear Alive t-shirts. We should sell those. We should trademark them. It's just,
we need to kill them.
Oh, those terrorists, yes. Or the Occupy protesters. Anyway, I put that link there to the Truth Dig article. I don't know where we want to go here in the last few minutes. We talked about technology, new executive orders. We have a new cybersecurity information center, a new agency. It's just like out of 9/11, we had the Department of Homeland Security that has become this beast, this monolith of security. And, let's be honest, They haven't done a great job protecting critical infrastructure. They haven't done a great job making us feel safe, because every time I turn on the television, I am inundated with reasons that I need to be fearful. So, I mean, for all the money, all the taxes, all of the forced conscription that goes along with, being a person here in Gitmo Nation, it's just not a real good ROI, return on the investment, for all of the freedoms that we have shed for these so-called freedoms and securities that we are to enjoy. But how many people actually read executive orders? Probably not that many. Real news, police state. Don't like this. Well, the problem is you. It's not the police, okay? And if Ferguson taught us anything, it was those darn people, the nice police, were doing everything they could to assist the citizens and protect them from themselves. Wink, wink. This comes out. Proposed New Jersey bill would require school children to learn appropriate ways to interact with police. Need I say more? Need we continue to expound on this? The new social studies core curriculum is going to teach you how to submit and to help provide for public safety for law enforcement. Individuals' responsibilities to comply with a directive from a law enforcement official. See, you don't get it. When that guy with the badge says you need to sit down, shut up, and get on the ground for whatever reason, no matter if it's just or not in your mind, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to question it. You just shut the F up and you drop to the ground. Now, that's how the curriculum in New Jersey should sound. Hey, you get on the ground. I'll freaking beat you in the freaking head over there. I know, it's not a great... You like it over there, body bing? I'll hit you in your freaking head with my freaking billy stick. How do you like that? How you like those apples, huh? You want to be a punk? That's what it would probably be like. It would sound like that. Well, anyway, I saw this article immediately after finding this morning. I woke up with my son, did a little news hounding after I fed him some banana and tried to put together a show here. Alabama cop suspended after paralyzing a 57-year-old Indian man. I need a bigger font. The caller who lived in the neighborhood did not recognize the subject and thought him to be suspicious. Police said in a statement. The Patel's family lawyer, Hank Sherrod, refuted claims that his client was checking out people's garages and that he was on private property. Nonetheless, Sharabi does not speak English. So they say, his lawyer at least claims, that when the cop approached him, got out and asked him, "Hey man, what are you doing?" No English. Well, that didn't stop this guy from basically beating him and paralyzing him. He did not fight back. He did not resist arrest. He's not been charged with any of those actions, any of those crimes. His crime was that he didn't speak English. So I'm looking at this. I juxtapose these two scenarios where, the state is telling you that you need to learn how to comply. You need to learn how to shut up. You need to learn how to take orders. And you have this guy that's beating the heck out of this man who doesn't understand, who cannot comply with his orders. Who needs training? Who really needs the training here? Apparently we do. Anyway, one of the things that I started out this broadcast in the syndicated format with was vaccines. And if you haven't been hit up on vaccines, and if you haven't had enough people out there telling you that you're crazy, that you're an anti-vaxxer, if you haven't had people limit you or to put you in a box to make you seem as if you are crazy and denying science, got a few articles that are in the show notes. Of course, they will be for you at Blacklisted Radio after show. One of them is a great article. It says the FDA is hiding scientific fraud and you should be pissed. And this came out of Vice. When the FDA encounters instances of scientific misconduct, it buries the evidence. A recent investigation sheds light on the extent of the problem. So we'll continue next week with a lot more about that. Medical deception and, of course, your dialogue, your comments. We always love to hear them. 512-222-3067 is our text and voicemail line. So shoot me some ideas for the show next week, and we'll get to those. It's too short. We'll have to continue in due time. Everybody, thank you for being part of the show, and take care. We'll see you next time.